Mic check. 1, 2, 3. Glad y'all can hear it. Hello. It's I, Mac the Great. How's everyone doing today? Welcome back to Mapmaker Monday. My name is Mac, community manager for Dungeon Alchemist. Dungeon Alchemist is a map-making utility available on Steam. Allows you to build maps in a snap, or you can spend hours and hours building very intricate, detailed maps by hand. The tool allows for both. Best of both worlds, I like to say. So welcome to our Mapmaker Monday stream, where every Monday you can tune in at 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. UTC, for a live stream where I build a map, and you can tune in, learn, listen, ask questions. The stream is hosted in AMA format, which means ask me anything. So if you have any questions related to Dungeon Alchemist, feel free to let me know, and I will do my best to address them. Throughout the stream, I'll be focusing on building this ancient cemetery, which I've been working on for some time on the Mapmaker Monday stream. It's been quite a build. I kind of got in a little bit more than I anticipated when I started this build, which actually started over in this corner with the entry area. And then I've slowly added, graves, a cathedral, with a parking area and a lovely garden all the way around it. A 3-story bell tower that we put in by hand. The grave sites of all their, clerics and paladins and clergy members over the hundreds of thousands of years. The road I built by hand using the terrain tool, but this center section was done using a room tool. Over here we have some kind of fancier, I like to think of this as more like royal graves because it's all fenced off. It's kind of up front, easy to get at, but also can be private. Over here we have what I like to call the caretaker's property, caretaker's cottage, his private, farm, garden, also work areas where there's overflow for like stone work and dirt from digging graves or helping, lay paths or set up grave markers. He tends to all the various plant life on the grounds, and is a bit of a green thumb, but also helps, manage grave plots, dig them, etc. But he has a bit of a knack for growing plants, and he likes to collect rare plants from other realms that are far away. Hey, Jack. You're right, my man? Hope all's well. But this area here was kind of the most recent area we developed out before. Oops. I moved on to what we have now called the sardine can, which is just going to be tons and tons of graves packed in. These are what I would consider pauper graves, just very, people of little means who maybe died with no money at all. Everyone in this community is afforded a grave site, but someone has to, dig it for them or take care of it. And depending on, the situation of their death or how if they had any friends or family willing to help dig their grave or maintain it or put a gravestone marker on it, then they may have something, you know, a little bit bigger like this, like a traditional grave, or maybe just a columbarium marker. This is a a, a Pokemon's. It's a Magikarp. Carp. Though if it was a brain eater, I'd be starving it to death. Jim, you assume too much. This poor guy would be far far smaller. Cat fur on my face. Keep seeing it floating around. There it is. Wait. Though I do have a face hugger somewhere in my house. Like, I definitely have one. Oh, you know what? I'm noticing the TikTok feed is not doing anything. Let me refresh it here. I see it is reloading. Cronclore. Thank you, Ashley. Yeah, Dungeon Alchemist has come a long way. So I just noticed the TikTok chat wasn't doing anything, so my bad. I missed a couple messages. Hey, Asmodeus, how you doing, buddy? And yeah, I've got the Steam feed up as well, so we're good across the board here. Okay. Was wondering what was going on. So basically, my plan for today is figure out what I'm doing in this section here and then start just packing in graves. I don't know if I'm going to be adding more columbariums past this section because it's just going to take forever to fill them all up. Like, I've only filled up like 2 or 3 rows. 4 rows, maybe 3.5 rows. And I still have all these to fill. Boom, 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 boom. So I'm going to try not to use those or leave a couple of them empty, like they're waiting for potential future, you know, funerals or whatever. Yeah, I missed that one, unfortunately, and I don't think they're here anymore. Alex, on TikTok, are you still present? I would love to answer your question if you are. Cronkler. I appreciate your attempt, but I just don't know if it'll work because I can't just give out access willy-nilly, sadly, because there's just no way for me to do it. I don't have a way to do it. Let's add a bench or something here. These look large. Look what I could do. Sink it in the ground a little bit. Oh, it feels too big still. I'm gonna shrink it, raise it, and then just stack 2 of them right next to each other. Okay. I could even raise them up a bit. Together like that. Not bad at all. Opposite. seating area. And then we can start adding graves down this way. I like to think y'all can see right through me sometimes. Open mind. Hardly. Okay, I'm going to start packing in some graves here. Let's start with, I like that one. What I think I'm going to do is do a couple graves. By that I mean graves that are like, it's very similar with like a branching piece, i.e. they were a couple, some sort. Two of them like really close together. And then you would put something like, I have a few that I've, couple graves. That one. Chain them together with something like that, and it just signifies that they're like, you know, linked in death even. It is not pre-recorded, Jack. Shut your mouth. He's just trying to get a rise out of me, get a reaction. He knows exactly what he's doing. Jack, what you playing at these days? Right, Rev? The best kind of recording. Go pull something from this stack over here. There's quite a bit that are interesting. Pollard for one. Grave. Could make it daytime too. Here. I've been kind of just building and showing it at night because it's a graveyard, right? That makes it more fun. Anyway. Let's continue adding more graves. Dude, I've been playing Dune Awakening when I'm not, you know, doing this or D&D. And it's interesting to say the least. Got that kind of space arc vibe. But there's no biomes, it's just the desert. And worms. Yeah, I think I'll add some decorative areas here in a bit, but at the moment I'm just trying to, like I said, sardine can it in. I was going to do as many graves as I can today. My goal today is quite literally to stay as on task as I can and get as much done as possible, but still be, you know, available to answer questions. Just going to be super focused on the build. I want to try and add like 20 to 40 graves today, if not more. Yeah, but I don't want a lot of duplication. I try to mix it up by doing a lot of different stuff. And I make the formatting as I go So that's kind of the problem. Everything's done very specifically by hand. I tried to speed it up with like an assembly line, but the problem is it's like I can only get like 5 or 6 graves before I have to catch up. My brain doesn't like it. So the plan is to just do rows at a time as quick as I can. Claw Gamer Squad Shop, welcome to the stream. My name is Mac. I'm the community manager for Dungeon Alchemist, which is the program you're seeing here. I wouldn't necessarily call it a game. I mean, it kind of is. It's very, you know, fun, and it's similar to, say, something like The Sims, but it's intended to build maps for games like Dungeons and Dragons or Pathfinder. So it's a map making tool that allows you to build beautiful maps that you can use in your D&D campaigns or other. But also it's very fun and cathartic to just build maps like we are on stream today that may never see the light of day other than, you know, hanging out. If you have any questions about what you're seeing, let me know. This is an overhead view of the map we've been making. It's a massive ancient cemetery complex. There's a big, huge chapel here, and there's quite a few graves that we've added already, but we plan to add a lot more. As you can see here, this is the area we're working on. So this will be all graves. I think I was going to add like a little park right here or something, maybe in this square, and then the rest would be all graves. For sure, you definitely could. In fact, let me open up Steam Workshop, because we have Steam Workshop integration, and our communities of map makers, DMs, GMs. There's hundreds of thousands of members in our community, and they've shared over 11,000 maps since we added Steam Workshop, integration. But if you type in like stadium, typically there's already a few that have been built and shared just with that name. There's typically more that would be like a coliseum, because they're like a fighting arena, which is, you know, more in tune with like D&D. That being said, here's a few more. It depends on your region, really, the price, because it's variable based on region and Steam. But if $44.99 USD, and that's a one-time price for a lifetime license. Dyson did like a whole series of maps that were like, each of them were a different letter. She just picked a new theme for each letter. Here's a bunch more that were just arenas. Should have searched this. But yeah, quite a few arenas and coliseums and the like. We're available on Steam, and we offer a free demo, by the way, so you can kind of try it out, see if it runs on your computer before you commit to any investment. I'm hoping we'll be on sale for the Steam Summer Sale, but I haven't heard anything yet, so I don't know for sure. I knew you were lurking, Dyson. Why I'm trying to draw you out. I'm making your nose itch by saying your name. Hey, Primal, how you doing? Welcome back. Okay, let's get back to building. Build. Bill guy, the map guy. Map build guy. I don't know what I'm doing. Anyway, don't let me sing. Yeah, the letter series is great. I think you did a great job. Some flowers in there. Then I'm thinking just put like one sunflower as the headstone. Or like a gardener or something. Or natural. Little stumped on K. How about... K doesn't have a lot of options, does it? Jack, you taking off, dude? Hey, thank you for being here. Appreciate you, brother. I know this isn't your scene, so I appreciate you when you drop by. See you later, Claw Gamer. Let's help Dyson come up with some suggestions for K. A theme using K as a word that starts with K. Night is a good one. I mean, that's a pretty easy one, right? You know, it's funny. One of my first builds in Dungeon Alchemist was a night-themed tavern. It is, I'm pretty sure, on the Rusty Armor Tavern. This is like one of my oldest maps. Just such a simple tavern. Oh man, Kite Shop would be interesting. Yeah, you could do kind of a Wizard of Oz theme build. You could do something with like a kingdom. Maybe even like a kingdom that's been like, that's, you know, fallen apart over time, like an ancient kingdom or some sort of like, I don't know. Doesn't necessarily have to be perfectly up-to-date built. Does that make sense? I mean, another like simple over the plate suggestion is something to do with kobolds. Yeah, I like to throw the easy over the plate ones out there. That's like a really like a simple. Kobold also has a broad like appeal. A lot of people love kobolds. Like it's hard not to love them. They're such little weirdos, you know? They're just like so easy to love. Kobold Canyon, like it. I like it. I need a headstone for this one. I was thinking of putting a sword on it. Not a standing sword, but a sword on it. Like just laying like on a scabbard. That's just so massive. I think that looks pops. Some headstones this way. Let's see here. Pole. Let's do. We did this one. Maybe we could do this little lamp one. Here, right there, center one. Down. Found in that headstone here. Grave site are we gonna do there? Do Aaron back over together and easy. Race and Killing Field, yeah, that's an interesting one there, Kane. By the way, welcome to the chat. And thank you for the follow earlier. Is it Canetti or is it Kane T? Or is it K4 Netty? I'm assuming the 4 is an A. I want to get your name right, by the way. That's why I'm asking. So sorry for putting you on the spot. Just want to make sure I don't butcher your name going forward. Are you going for like kinetic? All are fine. Okay. Pick one, please. So, how was everyone's weekend? Let's talk about it. Did anyone get any gameplay in? K4? Cool. I like it. Sounds like a robot dog's name. Well, that'd be more like K9, wouldn't it? Fantastic. Welcome, welcome. You started a campaign as a player, Miss DM's 3 games a week. Impressive. Is this used as a grave? Weird. So I saw a meme the other day on Reddit, and it reminded me of you, Dyson. And it was like the duality of like players, and it's like it shows the guy who's getting tons of water, and then someone's like waiting for drips to fall off the pipe, and the other guy's got tons. And then it's like, I'm in 4 games a week. I don't have time for more. And the other person's like, man, I wish I was in 4 games a week. You're killing me, Dyson. That is crazy. How do you manage that? That would get so jumbled up in my brain, I'd forget it all. I honestly commend thee. Trade thee. Oh my goodness. So, okay, 2 TOA, 2 Curse of Strahd, and 1 Waterdeep. Oh my goodness. That's a lot to keep track of. That's insane. Also awesome. Don't overdo it, okay? Don't get burnt out. That probably helps because your characters are like, it's even different if they are all the same character. That's a good way to help it for sure. It's good for everyone to do things to avoid burnout. If you find yourself disassociating from your hobbies or not finding, you're not happy with them, or definitely, maybe just think about doing some other things for a while, shifting your efforts into other hobbies or other interests to help you find your spark again. And also remember, not every one of your hobbies has to be a side hustle. Nothing against those that turn their hobbies into side hustles. I'm just saying sometimes it's good to keep like art and your hobby time to yourself. It doesn't have to be given to everyone else. You know what I mean? I think that's what keeps it so easy to be passionate. Or it's easier to be passionate about your hobbies when, they're not necessarily tied to the stress of like an income that you're trying to earn from it, or deadlines or whatever, Anyway, rant over. also have a full-time job. Geez, Dyson. Crazy. Ooh. That's a good suggestion, Atlam. So we've basically given you like a half dozen suggestions. Could make a kobold Kremlin. Knights of the Kobold table. Hey, Mondu, you're funny. I got this. Thank you, Diamond. I appreciate it. I'm trying to figure out what to do next here. How you doing, Diamond? Oh, tell her thank you. It covers up my bald head, but it's still easy to tell I'm quite bald. Whoa. I'm wonderful, Mondu. How are you doing? Magikarp. Carp. I know, that's the reason I wear it, because it's like y'all can't stop staring at it. If my head was there, y'all would be blind. Because the shining that comes off of my dome hits the camera with such a glare, it's like a sniper glint in a movie or a video game. Hey Joseph, how you doing? Hey Horror Spy. I have a campaign that in short has a lot of time era happening, very small amount of other stuff. So I'll be honest with you, Horror Spy, a lot of cultural assets is something we're gonna be avoiding. It's very difficult to add a cultural pack or mod or update without doing it like appropriately and without potentially offending people if we don't do it appropriately. So we have opted to avoid most cultural assets for that reason. Now, that being said, we have supplemented some options into Dungeon Alchemist to give you as community members the ability to import any assets you want. So we've added the asset importer, which is right here under the Steam Workshop tab, which you can import 3D models. Here, I'm going to save this map twice just to be safe. And then we'll open the asset importer. It essentially allows you to import 3D assets of all types, right? And supplement your collection with anything you want. So if you have the ability to sculpt 3D assets, or even how to source them online, maybe you support some Patreons and some Kickstarters that give you asset packs, whatever, those can potentially be imported through this tool. That's one way. Now, maybe you don't have the time to do that, right? Or you don't really want to figure this out, or you don't understand 3D modeling, or don't understand how to source or locate them online. That's fine. To each their own. There are already an impressive repository of assets that have been shared by our community. We're nearing 10,000 assets now, many of which dip into cultural or other aesthetics that aren't something we're doing right now. So we're primarily, fantasy, leading into like Western, early, like Victorian, kind of that era, with some steampunk added in as well. But with the assets available on the workshop, you can do things like sci-fi, cyberpunk, Fallout or apocalyptic vibes, cultural vibes. I mean, here as you see a katana, clearly not something we have stock in Dungeon Alchemist. And this collection of assets grows every day. You can type in, keywords and search. You can sort by most popular. Most recent is one of my favorite ways to look it up because there's tons of different options. There is tokens in this collection, right? There's 300, let's just see, NPCs, 478 monsters, and 140 characters. Blender assets can definitely be imported. Horror Spy, in fact, Blender is one of the primary tools a lot of our community members use to implement assets. There's a plugin one of our community members has made to kind of speed up converting assets in Blender to the right format and putting them on the right axis so they import correctly. What is Asmodeus? Are you still present? Isn't it Danger Weasels? What is the name of the module? But Horror Spy, if you hop in our Discord, we can direct you to a tutorial on our wiki. I guess we could probably share it on our YouTube. One second. Atlam, can you drop the link for the wiki to the tutorial for the asset importer? Because that has guides for like Blender and other stuff as well. Oh, you're already in the Discord? Perfect. Another thing too, if you ever get hung up, spin up a support or a question thread. Myself, the mods, or anyone who has a decent amount of experience creating assets and importing them will usually dive in and provide you support. Asmodeus, Sack, Danger Weasel, there's quite a few who are very prolific creators and have shared hundreds of thousands of assets on the workshop. But yeah, basically the asset importer or the assets available on the workshop really supplement that quite a bit. There are now dozens, if not hundreds, of sci-fi maps available, cultural maps available, leaning into things, that are like Viking or Japan or any of these different regional assets that would be something not necessarily a fantasy theme, but more like a historic theme. Now, that being said, in the future, once we leave early access, we do have plans to offer optional expansion packs that would essentially increase your asset collection and give you like new room types, new walls, doors, windows, floors, and that would be in an entirely new aesthetic, something like sci-fi or cyberpunk. We don't mind building out asset packs for themes that are fantasy, so to speak, or neutral, that don't necessarily have any cultural impact, because it's very, very easy for us to do that without worrying about offending people. The expansions would be optional when we release them, and they would be after we leave early access. That means after we've delivered on all our promises from our Kickstarter, i.e. all the stretch goals from our Kickstarter, which at this point there's 5 remaining. Once we release the Fun with Objects update in its entirety, I think there's only 4 left. So it would be Tricks and Traps, in no particular order. Tricks and Traps, Waterworld, High Seas, and Instant Dungeons are pretty much all that's left after this next update. Speaking of which, the Fun with Objects update looks like it'll be launching probably in the 2nd or 3rd week of July. But after we leave early access, then we would offer these expansions, which would be optional, and yes, they would be paid, something around like probably $20 to $30. But the way I have been hearing it and understanding it is it would be essentially completely optional. You don't have to do it unless you're interested in that theme. And then it would add hundreds of thousands of new objects right? Doors, windows, walls, floors, room types, biomes, environmental biomes that are all thematic to that specific content. So if you're thinking sci-fi, it would all kind of be linked to that. If you're thinking, you know, cyberpunk, it would be all be linked to that. Horror Spy, you can do that already, my man. I'm gonna blow your mind right now. You don't have to edit the files to do that at all. So you see this collision toggle right here under the object panel? That bad boy? When you disable collisions, you enable the fun, okay? What that does is it unlocks the objects. Notice this like UI changes. First off, the up down arrow is added so you can raise objects up and down. And you can scale them far beyond or below their limits once you've unlocked the colliders. So I can make stuff tiny or gigantic. This only works with about 99% of objects. There's a handful that are locked and they cannot be scaled regardless. Now, when you disable collisions, you can also merge objects together and make new and unique kind of compositions of objects. So it essentially allows you to do so much. And this has been something as a core product of Dungeon Alchemist for like going on 2 years now, at least, if not longer. It is kind of, you know, easy to overlook if you don't really dig into like these little add-on features or tabs. Honestly, that's what I'm here for, to blow minds and to help people, you know, make better maps. So if you leave today understanding Dungeon Alchemist better and, you know, how to make maps better, then that's you've succeeded in the stream, and I've succeeded. You know, honestly, people will build maps forever and not notice little things like this or like this down here. At the bottom of the UI, oh shoot, where it's covered right now with our damn challenge stuff. 1 second, let me just hide that. So down at the bottom of the object UI, it says shift, place multiple objects, control, toggle, snap to grid. Like a lot of people don't know that. And what that means is if you're placing a new object, right? If you hold shift, it automatically duplicates the object. If you hold control, it'll automatically snap the object into the nearest snap point that makes sense for it. So there's a lot of little like hotkey tools built into Dungeon Alchemist. You can see some like access under like the view tab, the edit tab. It'll show little hotkeys. You know what? I'm gonna probably blow some more minds right now too. Did y'all know you can change, like turn off a bunch of lights all at once, or turn them all on at once, or change their color or their brightness en masse? Right? The more you know. Man, that takes me back. Butterfly in the sky. I can fly twice as high. Okay. What was I going to look up over here? God, I was talking about. Why am I not seeing Falarian's messages? Or Farallon? Oh, there it is. It's way above. I've just missed it. Is there a way to make corridors that are half a square wide? So yes, there are, as long as you're not 100% reliant on, say, something like the room tool. if you're okay with using the room tool mixed with, say, object walls to make the corridors thinner, then yes, it's entirely possible. Like right here, if you look at this, I'm actually making pathways that are, you know, in like a third of a square because I'm laying them out by hand and I'm resizing the object by hand. Some of these corridors here are within a square. Does that make sense? Essentially, I'm not reliant on the room tool to build a lot of my stuff, or most of it. Now, if you were inside of a building and you wanted to make a corridor half a size, what you would do, let's say I wanted to make something, I wanted to split this doorway in half, right? You could grab an object wall under the object menu. If you go to here, objects, structural, then there's hundreds of thousands of objects that act as structural, you know, fill-in. They work great in your builds, but there's an entire section called freestanding walls. There's a wall for every wall in this menu. So, but these ones are different because they're an object. They can be placed anywhere. So you just find the one that matches your style. And in this case, I'm just going to go kind of find that center, which I just snapped it with control. And now I kind of split that down the center there. If I wanted to, I could grab this and make them even smaller. Split them into like whatever. So this is just kind of a demonstration of what's possible. If you have a building and you have a hallway and you want it to be smaller, use something like these and block off a portion of it. Or even these stone platforms work great because you can essentially block off a portion of a hallway with it. Kind of fill it in, so to speak. Because Dungeon Alchemist's room generation tools rely on a grid to generate, it has to use complete grids, so it can't split a grid unless you do it manually. I hope that makes sense. Secret passages kind of actually do exist in Dungeon Alchemist. Let me show you something. If you go into doors, I believe, we have several secret door types. There's one that's like a bookshelf, right? You can put this like in a stack of bookshelves and this one opens up. There's some that are perfectly matched to walls. So I'm not using a matching wall here, unfortunately, but assuming this was that same wall, this opens up and it acts like a secret door, and it matches in almost perfectly to the wall if there is that wall type. We have several that there's some catacomb ones and several stone ones, but these do exist in this wall menu, so you can match them perfectly. Just this particular stonework, I don't have one for it. Now, that being said, I did add a secret passage in this building. You ready for more mind-blowing awesomeness? So if you look at this confessional booth, it's actually a clever piece of kit that the devs, the artists, design. It has interactable parts. You can open and close the curtains, right? And the confessional booths rotate around. So it's actually, I have a secret passage back here that they feed into. And that leads to an underground area underneath all of the, you know, the burial grounds, so to speak. I've actually put several secrets on this map as we've built it out. That's one of them. There's one in this mausoleum here. I put a little hatch under the sarcophagus in this. And there's a hatch on the caretaker's property over here, hidden under this pile of manure at the very back corner of his property. I like to think he knows there's like a secret underground kind of area, and he keeps his access hidden so no one knows about it. Anyway, there's always like fun ways to add passages and secrets using Dungeon Alchemist objects, and quite a few of them kind of leaned into that. But you do have to kind of pick your build around it to make it match. I use a view. How do you get a hatch underneath another item? Lizzie, you disable collisions and then put the item on top of it. So you can put an item over an item. Lizzie, I mean, we essentially just don't want to offend any parties out there of any cultures or any, you know, whatever. Essentially, it's a smooth PR move to try not to offend people as a small business that doesn't have like tons of resources to, you know, defend themselves legally. And also, we just don't really like upsetting our community in any way. And the trade-off of, you know, not necessarily having every theme of asset available versus potentially upsetting, you know, groups out there, it's something we try to avoid. And in the past, we've actually put out assets that people found offensive, and we had to pivot and make changes. So this isn't based on nothing. It's based on past experiences. Now, Marilyn, which VTT do you use? Yeah, when you disable collisions, you can essentially put objects on top of each other or closer together. So I just put this object on top of the hatch. You know what I mean? And I kind of let the hatch hang out a bit, so it was kind of obvious it was there. Disabling collisions really allows you to do so much in Dungeon Alchemist. If you don't use this tool, you're really doing yourself a disservice in your builds. So within DA, our squares, when you're building, this is just hear me out here. We use when generating objects or placements, most objects generate within a meter square kind of sizing. And that means a lot of objects seem a lot bigger than they should be. At first, you'll be like, why is this? But when you export an image of something very tiny, it tends to be hard to tell what it is, some objects. So that was an artistic choice on our part. Now, these squares, though, when you export for virtual tabletop purpose, they're all 5-foot squares, okay? But when you export with Dungeon Alchemist, if you're playing on a VTT, you should not be exporting with the grid present. You should only export without it. Point being is the grid tools available in virtual tabletops are far superior to ours. The grid tool in DA is more of a reference point to understand size references and distances in your build. It's primarily used in our community for those who export maps for print or for TV tabletops. If you play on like a TV tabletop or a projector tabletop at, you know, in person, the grid tool is great. But if you are playing online with a virtual tabletop, their grid tools are far superior to ours. Just export your map as normal, set your grid to 5 feet if that's your gameplay interval, and it'll automatically lock in and match. Are you using the Smoke Inspector plugin at all? Extension on Owlbear? Horror Spy, we don't have direct compatibility with them, but there are quite a few members of their community who use Dungeon Alchemist. And the Smoke Inspector module, extension, whatever, allows you to export Dungeon Alchemist maps as Foundry maps under the Foundry listing, and it'll fit and plug in and match and lock into place every time. So if you have that module, you can do the Foundry exports, and you don't need to export with the grid on it. In fact, I find it's incredibly frustrating to export with the grid and try to line things up manually when there is almost always, in most virtual tabletops, a tool to lock it in almost immediately. A cheat sheet for all the different VTTs. You know, I tried to build a compatibility sheet, but the problem is those guys, they're constantly updating and changing things. And so it's a pain for me to keep up with it. I want to add like a page on our wiki that has essentially a breakdown of each VTT we're compatible with and what we offer with them. But I was going to wait until after this update to do that because there's going to be a lot of changes in Dungeon Alchemist. You just export it as an image? See, that's probably why you're having trouble lining up at the moment. Owlbear is a great tool, and I communicate with their community manager here and there. But yeah, use one of they have extensions, I believe, or like an extension market or a plugin market. Look for Smoke and Spectre. Try that out. But that's probably why things don't line up either, is the image exports tend to be more set for like print or a TV tabletop. You know, my DM, he actually does like scaled maps on Roll20. It's interesting because he'll scale maps up or down. Like if we're in a giant city, everything's scaled. So it's like the map is like double wide because the grid is, you know, tighter, I guess, or whatever. It just feels so like especially as a halfling without as much movement distance, like I don't get around as fast. Caillou, you're listening to the stream while driving. Well, as long as you're not watching while driving, that's acceptable. If you're podcasting it, that's cool. Can we get a shout out for Caillou driving safely, hopefully? Or if you're a passenger, I'll allow it. I'll allow it. Hey, Alina, how you doing? I recognize you. Aren't you one of the mods over there? We've chatted a couple of times in Eric's chat, I believe. Anytime you see the Dungeon Alchemist name drop in, that's this guy. Twitch moderator. Nice. I'm wonderful. Wonderful. I was actually just talking about Eric and how he sometimes scales maps differently, so it'll be like it's the same, you know, map, but it's like if you scale the grid differently, it makes the map bigger or smaller. It's interesting. Okay. Keep adding graves. Keep adding graves. I need to line this up somehow. Thinking of adding just like one row this way and then maybe like a path or a bench or something, like to kind of give it space so people don't like walk over their graves. Oh. Our group just had a session with Eric like this last Sunday. And we ended up beating the big bad. I'm hoping eventually my group gets a little bit more brave and wants to start streaming it. Because it's like, it's actually a really fun and compelling group. And I think it'd be interesting to stream it, but it's whatever. I'm not going to pressure them. I don't want to, you know, take away their fun if they're not interested in it, so to speak. Though the idea of streaming a campaign is super fun to me. I really want to do that eventually on the Dungeon Alchemist channel. Been waiting for the opportune time for like years. Like, you would think so, right, Horror Spy? logically, what you're saying makes sense on like paper, right? So Dungeon Alchemist is developed in Unity, right? And we are a small indie team. So at times we've had to make certain artistic choices to accommodate to both our manpower and resources, right? And skill. Early in the development of Dungeon Alchemist, before they launched into early access, they were trying to come up with a novel solution for terrain, and they essentially realized that it would take months and months to develop a custom one that they wanted that would be perfect for our needs. And at the time, they weren't sure exactly what biomes would be needed or what terrain patches and swatches they would want. Hey, see you, Alina. Thank you for being here. So they opted to use what is essentially like a plugin or a module for Unity to speed up the development. And this plugin, this module, allows for terrain painting within Dungeon Alchemist. It's like a third-party module or some kind of thing within whatever within Unity, and it is limiting. It has some problems, both in the more terrains we pack into it, the less efficient Dungeon Alchemist runs for the average user. So rather than pack every terrain paint in and cause about 2/3 of our community's experience in Dungeon Alchemist to be very poor and run very poorly, not run very smooth, just have lots of just slow down problems, right? Crashes, etc. We opted to limit each terrain, types to certain biomes for now. This is a temporary choice, and with time, this will be changed. One of our lead devs has said at some point they plan to essentially kind of gut this and remake it from scratch. So we essentially, we're aware of the limitations. Like even my insanely powerful computer with 128 gigabytes of RAM, sometimes when I'm painting terrain, it gets really sluggish and slow. Like right now, it's skipping. And it's because we're reliant on this one dependency of this one module for terrain paint. And I like to think of it as kind of just this artifact of early access that eventually will be gutted and changed and updated and made much better. I think at that point, it'll probably be, every terrain paint in every biome, but also maybe even the option to import your own. Who knows? But that being said, I can't speak to when that'll happen. I just know that they plan to do it at some point. Right now, though, I understand it's frustrating because it's not very well optimized. You would think, even at this point, I've begged them to put sand in every biome or snow in every biome. So you could just paint a little bit of snow patches here and there, a little bit of sand here and there. Now, that being said, our next update will add a tool that will help combat this quite a bit. It's the decal tool. And the decal tool essentially allows you to paint images, PNGs, on top of objects, walls, floors, terrain, etc. So you can add a lot of detail to your maps in just a handful of clicks that makes it kind of break up the patterns and the monotony in the background. Now, I don't know if when you were watching this video, it's kind of hard to tell. If you blink, you'll miss it. I'll try and pause it. In this particular panel, notice there's leaves, moss, dirt, snow. So it looks like they're going to add at least some ability to paint in some different terrains into different biomes to a degree. but it's mostly through an image dependency, like an overlay, an extra layer above everything, so to speak. But it is a very impressive development all on its own. And they've actually added the ability to import custom images, so you could do like custom terrains or whatever, swatches through this. Do good bollard over here. Let's do a shield. I haven't done a shield in a while. Let's do much too large. I'm gonna just down. Go. More. Headstones here, and then maybe like just fencing. Did the benches here. Did hedges here. You could just do something like the smaller fence again. Don't want people like shortcutting over people's graves. I'm sorry, say, can you try and, I'm also confused. You want to know how much you're resizing them? So, unfortunately, it doesn't really show a scaling percentage when you're scaling up an object. It's called kind of freehand. Though our next update will offer a universal scaling object for the entire, like, object panel. It will essentially allow you to set the object scales to anywhere between 50 and 200% on the fly, which is great if you're not really happy with the current like default object scale. You can set it to lower or higher depending on your map build. This can be very, very useful. Instead of having to scale every object one at a time, you can scale the entire collection. This is about the only way it'll show how much it's scaling it. Now, that being said, what I like to do if I'm doing a lot of objects and I want them all to be the same size, right? I'm assuming that's what you're aiming for. Instead of like resizing every object one at a time, copy from the one you like the size of. Once you get an object to the size you like, just start copying from it and using your shift option to duplicate it if you need it more, or the plus right here, which also gives you a tooltip of the name when you highlight the plus symbol. Well, I'm glad that we, at least I am hoping, figured it out. Wouldn't want to leave you hanging there. Hey, BB, how you doing? How goes your day? How was your weekend, I should say? Hey, Jackal, how you doing? I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for asking. I just kind of recently got over COVID, which sucked, but things are going better now. Feeling a lot better. Other than I'm just kind of like get worn out easy, and it's so hot here in Vegas now. It's like 105 plus, which just wipes you out. You know, if you're still kind of post COVID recovery, I've noticed. So anyway, other than that, I'm great. Oh, thank you. I love this hat. It's always a good conversation piece. I feel like y'all can't stop staring at it, and it's much better than being blinded by my scalp, right? There is not a worm in my brain at all, nor is there a slug resting on my skull. You're not seeing anything. Don't believe your eyes. Let me see. I've got a teaser here that I want to show you all. You missed the green in my headset that makes my head see-through. So I was told that some new cool features were added recently, but I haven't seen them in action because only just like this morning did my build get fixed. So let me show you this image. Blink twice. So you're saying basically in the next minute I'll confirm I'm a mind flayer. I just have to not blink forever. So this was a screenshot shared with me. By our lead developer. Now, I'm noticing this is an export feature. I'm hoping we can add it as a live feature, because I know people like to take screenshots, and your export, if it's the only one that blocks the sun in interior rooms, that's kind of a frustrating way. You can't really use the cinematic features to do that, right? So I'm going to talk to them about this and verify. Technically it is. The live grid is on the export at the settings you set it. You can disable it in the export menu though. Let me show you one more image. So render the grid over everything. Currently the grid, it renders, you know, under some objects, but on top of the floor. Right? Rockstar is pretty serious about their leaks. They seem to still have them for some reason. I've been reading some of the leaks for GTA 6 on Reddit, and they're compelling. The game looks like it's going to be crazy. Anyway. Would y'all like to see a clip of some underground building? Or just, you know. I'm hoping after stream today, I'll be able to record some clips of some upcoming new features and share them within the coming weeks. My build has been very inconsistent, but they're going into what they call testing weeks, which is essentially a big flurry of testing, getting in all the features, trying to find bugs, and then they're going to work out those bugs and then do another testing before we launch. And y'all remember, roofing and ceilings will be in the next update as well. So right? I can only do so much. I do have a bit of like a streak of finding things in DA. I'm a harbinger of bugs. I tend to find the game-breaking bugs in test week, and then we end up getting delayed. And it's happened at least twice. Exactly. So it's kind of a joke that I've caused some major delays because I'm really good at finding bugs, right? But also, it's like probably for the best that we didn't release it in a buggy state, right? Some of the new roofing stuff is so silly. Yep, there will be officially wisterias. Okay, let's get back to Graven. I am a Mac and I'm digging a hole. Diggy, diggy hole. Diggy, diggy hole. You always seem to need hanging plants. Well, have I got news for you? Now, the wisteria option will be great, I'm sure, for many. Graves just keep going forever. Some diverse. Do that pillar. Essentially want them to all kind of feel different. Slightly, at least, if anything. Okay. If there's any necromancy happening here in this place, it's happening in secret. Let's just say that. Hmm. One of these pillars with a lantern on it. Like a bullseye lantern. I need something simple. Looks good. Round, kind of line it up and sink it. Shrink it and sink it. Boom. Good. Yeah, it would really help me speed this up because, to be honest with you, I'm like running out of creativity here and they're starting to look really similar. But my headcanon for this is these graves are the people who really couldn't afford a fancy funeral or a plot even. So they are given a plot as like, because everyone, their society is really has a reverence for the dead and everyone is afforded a plot. But someone has to dig it. You either have to dig it yourself before you die, or someone has to, in your family or friends or coworkers, has to dig it for you and bury you, or you have to pay someone to dig it. So essentially, in some instances, you know, they may not have had someone who could do it, or they did something simple like a vertical grave, or maybe they didn't have a body, and so they used a columbarium. But yeah, the new graves in the next update will help tremendously. In fact, while we're talking about that, let's take a look at some of the variety of those. I told Wim I was really suffering on this build with graves, and he said, well, let me see what I can come up with for fun with objects. I was like, because a lot of our graves are very denominational, especially towards like Christian leaning. There's a lot of crosses. And I, you know, like that's fine, but in D&D or Pathfinder, I don't think Christianity is even a thing. So it really is kind of like, it's weird that there's really not a lot of non-denominational graves, right? Or whatever, it could be any denomination you want or some kind of deity tied to it, right? So in the next update, there's going to be like something like over 600 some odd combinations of graves available and headstones, because you can shift and change out the headstones and the graves and the like stuff on them, the decor. So essentially we'll have a lot of new like grave options, hopefully in the near future. But until then, I gotta make do with what I got, you know what I mean? How are you, Remy? What you been up to? Yeah, I have added a bunch of tombs, but this area likely wouldn't be tombs. These would be really simple graves. Like we've added some, you know, mausoleums and tombs and all sorts of stuff from the workshop specifically to kind of spice this up and make it different. But it only goes so far, and I'm trying to avoid using the workshop excessively. because it makes the map even larger. Like right now, the map's already huge size-wise, but then you add, 500 megabytes of objects. It also makes it crazy for some people to download, or really difficult for them. Not everyone has unlimited internet, or as a reasonable data speed. So sometimes I kind of try to build around that, but I'm already getting way off course with this one. So another grave with a couple. I'm gonna use a connected pole. These bad boys are really cool. Gotta use them kind of sparingly. So when you have two of them in proximity, a rope connects between them. You know what? I had an amazing Father's Day. So Mrs. Mac, she's like, hey, what do you want for breakfast? What do you want for dinner? I want to make sure you have the food you want today. Like, whatever you want. We'll even eat the foods you like that we don't like. And I was like, really? So I love breakfast burritos, but I don't eat them often because my son and wife tend to not like them. They love eggs, they love potatoes, they love tortillas, but when you put them all together, for some reason, they don't like them. So anyway, why is this rope so massive? I feel like I did this over here and it didn't do that. See? Oh, that's mooring poles. Let's use these because that rope looks ridiculous. Anyway, so she made me bacon, egg, cheese, like onion, or not onions, sorry. It was peppers and olives and like a whole bunch of stuff. And I felt like Rockefeller because we had eggs, right? So yum breakfast. And then we kind of just hung out and chilled. And then I napped because I ate so much breakfast. So I got some rest in because I've been exhausted lately. And I had a few casual drinks after my nap to kind of just chill out. Did some gaming, played some Dune Awakening. And then for dinner, the missus made me homemade lasagna, which is like one of my favorite foods. It's kind of a comfort food. I grew up in a very Italian home and ate a lot of Italian meals. And so when my wife like breaks out my mom's recipes and makes food for me, it's like it hits home for sure. So, or my grandma's recipes or whatever, you know what I mean? Anyway, it was delicious. I, just mostly relaxed. I did a few things around the house that I'd been avoiding because I was either sick or busy. I have some security cameras around my property, and I got these like solar ones thinking, oh, won't need to charge them often or wire them into the house somewhere, which was the case for the most part. But the sun, kind of shifts. Well, the sun doesn't move, the earth shifts and tilts, and it changes the position of where the sun hits. And for the first 6 months, like one camera is perfectly fine and the other one's not. And then the next 6 months, the other one's not good and doesn't get good charge, and the other one's fine. So I added little supplemental panels to both of them that kind of just grab extra sun throughout the day. I know that's boring stuff, dad stuff, but I enjoyed it. It was fun for me. Anyway, I listened to an audiobook for a bit, kind of for like an hour and a half, just kind of zoned out. I've been trying to read more, but also do audiobooks more to kind of fill in when I'm like driving or waiting in, like a whatever. So I've been enjoying that quite a bit. Might have moved these two close in, so let's move this. Remy, that drag show sounds interesting. Good luck and stay safe. Dungeon crawler audiobooks. Half Ogre, how you doing, my man? What you been up to? Dungeon crawler Carl, huh? I've heard good things about him. Never really checked it out. Work. Ogre, you know what? I'm glad you're busy at least. There's plenty out there who are not working at the moment or lost their jobs recently. So, like me, I'm blessed. I love that I'm busy and working, and also that my employers are foreign and in another country because, man, oh man. Anyway, I'm happy for you that you are busy working. You know what I mean? Like I said, it could be worse. Glad to hear it, Remy. Please have fun for me because I like to live vicariously through all y'all because I can't really go out much. I learned my lesson. I went out and traveled and went on vacation for the first time in like years, right? Since pre-COVID. Went to visit my grandfather, and I saw 3 people while I was there. My grandpa, my grandma, and my grandpa's girlfriend. Because my grandparents are separated, live separate places. And I got COVID while I was there, even though I was like masking up the whole time and use sanitizer like crazy and like wore gloves and like I was very careful and still got sick and brought it home. It's crazy. You love your job and your boss. That's awesome. You're on book 3 of 12. Nice. I got to check that out. So what I've been listening to lately, a little bit of a guilty pleasure. I don't know. When I was growing up in my teens, I really loved the Halo franchise. It's kind of grown out of it over the years, mainly because like the lore and the games and all the media have gotten way out of control and it's like all over the place. But when I was younger, I really enjoyed the Halo books as well. And I had like a set of like the first 5 to 10 books and I'd loan them out to friends and lose them. Oh, naive Mac loaning out his books. Or, you know, basically they've been misplaced over the years. And it's depressing, but at the same time, it's like lesson learned, whatever. And I have been slowly building up my physical book collection again, but also audiobooks. I try to get an audiobook for each one so I can listen to them while I'm like, if I'm in the groove and I have to go do a dad errand, I can like listen to it instead of sit down and read it all day. That could be a good thing. I often am very reserved about like heavily opinionated, like, or like dramatized content, especially nowadays. I don't know. I've just found like a lot of content is like, here you are watching a Dungeon Alchemist stream and I say this, but I feel like, and I try to avoid this here, I feel like content is very like monetized and corporatized and like all the life has been kind of sucked out of it. The internet is not the same fun place I grew up on. And it was like a completely different place when I was growing up. I feel bad for future generations because the internet is like, it's actually kind of soul sucking at times. And like every bit of it is paywalled or monetized or intended to like try and like trigger you and rile you up and get you upset about things. Like the internet is not the same place it was when I grew up. So I enjoy trying to make this place a fun, safe third space, which is kind of rare nowadays. There's not many of them where, you can tune in here and there's no obligation to spend money or buy content packs or anything like that. It's just, let's hang out, let's talk about your campaigns, let's talk about your map making, you know, and let's really just try to give people a place to hang out and have fun, regardless of where they live or their history, their background, or whatever. I'll have to check that out. I'm always on the lookout for like interesting books like that. What did you say, Chim? Do I have to ban you? No, I'm just kidding. You're gonna put in some flowers. I appreciate the kind words, BB. Honestly, I do my best to make this place an inclusive and like hate-free zone, both here and our Discord. It's a lot of work to keep out like the bots and the haters and the just people who really just have a hard time accepting people as they are and all walks of life. So I like to think of myself as like the Funkle for our community. Y'all familiar with that phrase? Sounds like a skin issue. You know what, Mondu? I try to be like the fun uncle, to the community. Give y'all a place to hang out, have fun, unwind, especially nowadays. Like, where everywhere you go is just designed to like enrage you or exhaust you or take all your money. So I try to not make this space be like that, The only time I'll enrage you is when I, on purpose, interchangeably use the phrases GIF and GIF in the same sentence. I strive to be like Uncle Fester. Obviously, after he got his memory back or before he lost his memory, because in between he was being molded a little bit. Let's just say that. But yeah, that's thank you. That's actually a good compliment. Fester, I mean, also played by like a really good actor. Honestly, like Christopher Lloyd has had like a crazy career over the years, right? And just seeing him recently in Star Wars also made me so happy. Christopher Lloyd. Man, I've actually added a lot of graves today. Look at this. I think I went from like here all the way down, and I still have quite a bit of time. I think I'm going to just fill in columbariums a little bit with objects so they get like a little bit more design to them. To help me come up with ideas for things to shove in these little spots. Only 1,600 left to go. Dyson, quiet you. I might actually do a little downtime building to kind of lay out areas or footpaths to save time on monotonous stuff. But let's see here. We added 35, 40 graves, and I still have time to add more, but like I said, gonna fill in the columbariums. I consider these graves too, technically. We ain't cheating, right? We're filling in these bad boys. To be honest with you, the fact that I'm only working on it once a week is the reason I don't get burnt out on it. Like, I'm only working on it like an hour a week, so it's really easy to like pretty much avoid that entirely. I don't think I've ever been burnt out on Mapmaker Monday. It's actually my favorite stream of the week. It's fun to just kind of chill out and talk about, you know, everyone's weekends, but also like to build a map and get your feedback and suggestions and ideas, and you know what I mean? Well, it would only be like boring parts. Like if I did it, it would be things that y'all probably would hate to watch. Like, do y'all like watching me put in footpaths and stuff? Ooh, we could add like some plants. Is that what you're suggesting there? Like hanging plants? Vases. And why do the vases we have seem so crazy over the top? But yeah, I am working tiny here. Everything has been scaled down tremendously in this section, so I can pack as much of it in as possible. That's kind of the point. They're afforded a small amount of space. Cup looks fancy. Let's do one of those. Can't really do food because I feel like that would be like something, but we could do like a gourd or a spice or something. The garlic braid is a good one if I can shrink it down. Some herbs. No, I do not. You can't make me. Just kidding, I'll do it. I'll do one Eliza just to make y'all happy, but she's terrifying. He doesn't deserve to be represented in a plane of any kind of existence. You all are tempting fate by inviting her into your games, inviting her into your maps, I'm telling you. One of these days, you'll be like, Mac was right. Even before I did that, I knew she shouldn't be tempted into the mortal plane. Just trust me. Put a bottle of wine in one of these. We're doing forced perspective, right, Chim? Honestly, it is quite a lesson to learn, but once you do it a few times, it's pretty cool. Like, it's actually kind of interesting. Do we put some sausages in one of them? Some links? Or like on a grave? Person was a butcher. It seems like it would just invite ants and animals. I don't think that's a good idea. Second thought. Here we just have some candles as an effigy. Guess they're staying on this side. Oh, moving them over. Or it could just be, you know, all they could afford for this person was candles. I do like an oil lamp once in a while too. Just something like that. But yeah, sure, they could be the candle maker if it helps you sleep at night. Did it feel like working with miniatures? That's an interesting idea or interesting take. Kettle here. Thinking of putting like a helmet or ooh, a compass is a good one. Notice I get it to kind of prop up on the shelf before I shrink it. That way I don't have to wedge it in after. So what I do is I grab the object that I plan to drop in there, right? Let's do another compass, but we'll do it on this side. So watch as I move in, it kind of pops up onto that shelf, but it's like obviously overlapping the other area. And I just resize it. It's right into place. Perfect. Each of these counts as a grave, right? Right? I have this idea for a map, but not sure if it'll work. Black and white movie where they hid the witch's makeup by making it red and switching between a red and blue filter of the lens. I think I'm trying to do something similar with a pair of maps of the DA that are the same area. So you're trying to do the 3D filter effect where they do the red blue contrasting kind of thing, but then that's what makes her pop in that scene, I'm assuming, right? Like actually visible when they switch between them. It's almost like is a photoscopic effect? Or maybe I'm jumping to conclusions here. But remember when you export in DA, I'm gonna save twice. When you're in the export menu, you can export in black and white. So you may want to try exporting your map in black and white and running it through different color filters in like a photo editor. Interesting. Oh, I get it. So it's more like a Hitchcock effect kind of thing, where it makes some things pop and hides other things. That's interesting. So when you're in the export menu, obviously you can export in a grayscale for your map. So you may want to try exporting the map in a grayscale and then adding different color filters to it in like a photo editor. Interesting. That would be, if you figure that out, I would love to know what you do. And to be honest with you, I'm more or less just kind of not sure how to approach it. Oh man, I missed this whole row. Get this row done, shall we? I need a cheese wheel. Both in my real life and in the graves. That's interesting take, by the way. I think that'd be very cool. If you figure it out, I would love to know like what you did. I do think exporting it in a grayscale is where you start, and then you would probably have to run it through like photo filters in a photo editor. Or do little areas that you run it over. I'm sure I will. It sounds interesting. I'd love to see it in practice because, yeah, I'm just imagining it right now. And it's like, it sounds cool, but I also have no idea at the same time. So, yes, please. Round bomb with a fuse. Do another helmet. A helmet. I like using these because nice little fitting object. It's like indicative of the person. Is there a notice mappers can give you so you don't miss the trick? Oh, you mean something that you can like either add in the description of the map if it's shared, or something for the players to notice, like a legend or something? Chim, one way to address that, a lot of creators in our community will hide like a watermark or like a copyright mark to say, hey, you can use this map if it's being shared. But that same principle could be used in the overlay section. So you could just add an image to the side that's like a legend giving instructions, extra background info. That might even be a good way to do the overlays with red and other colors, is using the overlay layer. Yeah, Mosey, we got a lot of fresh graves today. I put in a bunch of new graves, and then we're going into columbariums here that I added and just kind of filling them in with objects to make them seem like whatever, that they are, someone's burial, so to speak. Urns and stuff that might be indicative of their career or whatever. Items to remember them by. Oh, nice. How did your map go? I'm glad you caught us. Okay, I think I want to ask this one more time on streams, and then I'm going to give up on it. I need as many ideas, feedback, suggestions, DMs. Tell me all the weird ways your players have used this object. Players, tell me all the fun ways you would use it. I need to know interesting ways to use an immovable rod. I've heard a few suggestions from our community. I want to hear as many more as I can today before we wrap up. Mosey, why don't you hop on the workshop and look for like a banquet hall or a dining hall? I bet you'd find something. Could speed up the process. or give you some inspiration. That's the whole point of the workshop, is to kind of fill in the gaps when you might not be able to do it yourself that day. You know what I mean? Oh no, don't want that. Jeez. So laggy at the moment. Anopic jar is over. It is Anubis. Interesting. Why did they have to drill the holes, though? Couldn't you just touch it to them and activate the rod and they'd be stuck in place? Because the immovable rod holds still in place. It locks to whatever. Ah, gotcha. That's fair, to be safe. Is the Warforged a party member, or was it an NPC? Wait. What happened on TikTok? Did my stream end? Weird. Very important NPC, fair enough. And as a Warforged, what size were they? Medium or large? This Warforged in particular. In this one. Gotcha. So if they're large or giant, yeah, 2 immovable rods makes sense. I was like, they did 2, they were overkilling it, but you know what? They were doing what they felt was right in the moment. Makes sense. It does seem like an interesting object to stop them, but couldn't somebody just like touch the pole and turn it off, the button? I guess they'd have to know how to activate it, right? Does the idea of making this space into like a little park, not necessarily a play park, more like there's benches and like a gazebo and maybe a fountain or sculpture, something like that, like where it's not necessarily all dead things? Would that be an interesting take in this little space? I'm trying to get creative with some of the other spaces so it's not all graves. Because I like little spaces like this where it seems inviting and people can sit down or relax or whatever. I haven't added many trees over here because the graves are packed in so tight, there's not much room for them. But I do think a little area over here with some benches, some trees, a gazebo. Yeah, exactly. Something like that. Like there is some over here, so why not in these, in like this big area where all these graves are? Once I finish out this whole wedge, though, I'm going to expand the graves to be larger again. They'll be more fancier, middle like grade here, park here, middle grade here. And then over here will be private plots of families where they have like their own mausoleums and graves and like little fenced areas. Roughly these sizes or smaller, terraced. Yeah, keyhole areas for gathering kind of further into the complex. Exactly. It sounds cool, BB. Good luck with your project. I wish you the best of luck on that, because honestly, I'm not even sure how to approach it. But I think you'll figure it out. Let's save a couple of times, then we'll wrap up the stream for the day, all right? So, I hope y'all enjoyed today's Mapmaker Monday stream. We added tons and tons of columbariums and graves in today. A good probably 20, 30 graves and another 20, 30 columbarium spaces. Got a lot of fill in today, and it'll just keep going and going as we progress each Monday. Remember, you can tune in every Monday, same damn time, same damn channel, 9 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. UTC to watch a map made live. We do appreciate you when you tune in because you can actually learn quite a bit from these streams, but not only that, it really helps our community grow and Dungeon Alchemist as a whole grow, because as an indie development company, we don't have a whole lot of budgeting for advertising or whatever. Mainly we get seen because of word of mouth. So when y'all are watching our streams or retweeting and liking our posts and sharing them and, hosting our streams, etc., it really means the world to us. Again, if you also enjoyed the stream today and it's your first time here, make sure you hit that follow, like, subscribe, whatever platform you're on. That way you can find us again in the future. I really appreciate everyone that tuned in, whether you were actively chatting, whether you were lurking in the background, just hanging out, whether you were one of our active mods today. We had several mods drop in. Thank you so much for all the mods being here. Atlam especially for being here the whole stream. I appreciate you. I guess we'll just see you next time I give a damn, right? I appreciate y'all being here. We're going to run a Dungeon Alchemist themed ad, and then we're going to end the stream. Mac out. Bye.
You stand before the long, dark road to the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta, and before
What do we see?
I don't know, a goblin.
I kill him.
But before she does, I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to know the goblin's name.
Hi, my name is Woblin.
Where do you live there, Woblin?
I don't think that's relevant.
Well, but I, Gilliam of Firth, demand to seek the goblin's abode.
Clever. Find family. Kill entire bloodline. I like it.
Seriously, we're doing this? Okay, well, won't be needing that anymore, will I?
Ever get caught by your players with your pants down? Dungeon Alchemist lets you create wonderful maps for any encounter in seconds.
Oh, Woblin, that's a very impressive cheese collection you've got there.
Yeah, it is quite impressive, yes. But you know what's more impressive? This map I have to the fabled realm of Goyak-Ta. Please take it and leave. Close the door behind you.
Mr. Woblin, I cannot help but notice that you have a secret tunnel underneath your cabinet. Care to explain?
Download Dungeon Alchemist, the AI-powered mapmaker, on Steam today.
You missed him so much. It was great for him to come back. See? A nice little break from wobbling. game again. It's fantastic. Thank you again, everyone, for being here. I hope you enjoy your week. We'll see you Wednesday for office hours, our Discord exclusive weekly stream. Thanks again for tuning in. Back out. Bye.